So this is the map of top half of Manitoba here, and got to get Dad interviewed at one point here and talk more about what he did. But you see all the lines in red here. These are the winter roads that he put in, and he went all over the north. Basically, opened up the whole north here for Northern Indigenous communities, and was building road for hydro and transmission line and putting in airports and bridges. And you know, he was doing this back in the day before there was cell phones and whatnot. I don't think he even got a satellite phone until the late 90s. And so would leave end of December, beginning of January, wouldn't come home till end of April. So can you point out some of the roads here to some of these guys?
Well, like this is Kenaseo. That's a kind of a reserve in Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
And this is, let me see here. This is Lynn Lake. This is the starting point. So we'd go here, that's 62 miles.
Yeah.
And then start making ice roads to Brochet. That's another 62 miles.
Okay.
And then we would swing out here and get into Perch Bay and go north to Lac Brochet, which is another 80 miles.
Okay.
And then this here is South Indian Lake. This would be our starting point. And we made a winter road to take all the building material for them to build a lodge and the cabins.
For Big Sand Lake.
For Big Sand Lake, which is owned by South Indian Lake.
Yeah.
This is 105 miles one way. And then this was South Indian again, going to Lac Brochet. It's 153.
Lac Brochet or Tadouli?
Or Tadouli, I should say. That's 153 miles.
Now, what's this little offshoot here?
This is Wood Lake. That's owned by, it's an out camp again for South Indian Lake for hunting and fishing.
Okay. So tell us a quick story about Tadouli Lake there. What happened? It was 1980. So what was unique about that, getting into that community?
Well, the most important thing is they were moved from, where are we here now? I can't see good enough. What's this say here? No, that's Monroe Lake.
Stormy Lake.
They're way up here.
Duck Lake Post.
Yeah, Duck Lake Post. They were moved from Duck Lake Post to Churchill.
Yeah.
And they were set up in little cabins that really weren't fit for winter.
Yeah.
And scrounging out of the garbage dump and whatnot. And then in 1975, they got a grant to find a place to live. Excuse me for a minute, I gotta put a cigarette out.
So, this is one of the big things that happened in Northern Indigenous history. They got moved out of here. There's still a cemetery here. So they got moved to Churchill.
Yeah.
And then from Churchill, they went to...
In 1975, they got a grant to go and find a place to live.
Okay.
And the chief at that time was Peter Yassey. So they went up here by boat on Seal River, and they came to Tadouli, and that's where they decide to settle. But in the meantime, this was South Indian Lake's trapping and fishing area. You know.
So we're bordering on their territory.
Well, yeah. And here's another thing. These guys were moved from York Factory to...
Split Lake?
No, to York Landing.
York Landing, yes.
That's where we started off from Ilford and put a road in and built an airstrip there. Now this whole area was owned by Split Lake Reserve.
Yeah.
You know, there wasn't enough thinking to think of everybody that's involved, eh?
So this red here, was this a spur line off the rail line or what?
Yeah, like Ilford, that's a rail line there.
Yeah.
It goes through to Churchill. But anyway, we started from there, and we had to get a road to. There's Ilford right there.
Yeah.
Had to put a road in here to get our fuel and equipment in the winter because we're landlocked there in the summer on account of it's all water, eh?
Yeah.
And then come out the next winter.
Okay. So what's this down here? Is this Norway House or Cross Lake?
That's Oxford
Oh,
House.
Oxford House, I mean. Yeah.
1975. This was their old route on the winter road.
Yeah.
And it went across the lake and was dangerous, eh? So Northern Affairs hired us, and we put a bypass in here to Oxford. That's the existing one now.
So one of the things I want to touch back here before we forget is Taduli Lake.
Yeah.
What happened the first day you went into the community there?
Well, when we went into the community, there's a lot of children that never seen a truck, eh?
Yeah.
So we set up camp, and then I had one pickup truck that had cruise control. So we used to pile in 4 or 5 kids and go out on the winter road because it's all ice, is plowed wide.
Yeah.
And let them drive, eh?
Okay.
And I got pictures of that. I'm gonna get a bunch together of the original setup there at Taduli and send it to them.
Yeah.
And see if those kids are gonna be growing up.
Well, they'll be about my age now.
Yeah.
So,
And this route here was the first survey line for hydro to put power into Churchill because it was all diesel before.
okay.
And then once this was marked out, then Murray Urbanski was a friend of mine, a contractor. They built the transmission line.
Okay. So this one in red you didn't touch then?
Well, that's transmission line. Like
Okay.
We started with a cat on each end
Met in the middle.
for hydro.
Okay. So now everything that's outlined.
And this here is Norway House.
Yeah.
So they had a road going across here to the 3 communities here. There's Island Lake,
Wasagamack.
and forget the other one. Anyway, they had traveled across here on Stevens Lake, and they dropped a grader through the ice, but it was sitting on 2 feet of water on rock, eh?
Okay.
So what we done is we corduroyed it, froze it, drove the grader off, and finished it. But we had a D6 in here working on this stretch, and we made a 30-foot drag, 12 feet wide, with grader blades on to smoothen it off for quick running, because that's 206 kilometers across.
Yeah. When were you in there?
When we were doing the transmission line from
70s, 80s?
no, in 90s, early 90s, from Cross Lake, or from Whiskey Jack or Genpeg to that's the community, to right there, the south end of the community.
And that is
That's
Nelson House, isn't it?
Norway House.
Norway House. So this is again this is like the
And Norway House, or Nelson House, we done 4-bay clearing there, around 3,000 acres.
How many times did you think were you into South Indian Lake opening it up?
Oh, for
25 years or something?
I forget how many lots anyway.
Yeah.
Because there was no road in there, so you used to start here at South Bay
Yeah.
and put the road in just to the community.
Yeah.
Because we needed that road open to go the rest of the way. Eh?
So when you were, what was some of the more interesting things you saw over the years?
It was all interesting.
Yeah. And this is not.
We used to see thousands of caribou, and most of the crew were native. So say we get up into this area here, which is
North
part
Indian
of
Lake?
the Seal River.
Yeah.
Well, we'd have a net in there, fresh fish. This lake here was never fished. It's called Sioux Lake. We put a net in there. First 2 fish out of that lake were 90-pound or 40-pound red meat trout,
Okay.
but there was pickerel and everything in there.
So they, besides the winter roads, you've done bridges, you've done airstrips, transmission lines.
Yeah.
Is there anybody from the past that you might also want to mention, like other outfits that were up there?
Well, Sikfasen pretty well done the east side, eh?
Yeah.
Like Sikfasen Transportation, they were big. Plus Ontario, and Sikfasen had fished Reindeer Lake, and there was other people, but even Gardwine went into Brochet at one time.
Okay.
But for a truck road that was done for the whole winter, you could take anything. We're the only ones that ever made these. Eh?
So.
And then later on, they got off of the ice, and Brochet got this road put in. That's on land and like swamp and bush.
Yeah.
And then there was a guy by the name of Tom Fortin put this chunk into Dooley.
Yeah.
And I believe Brochet or Lac Brochet put this stretch in.
Okay.
You got to give credit to everyone that done something.
Yeah. And now your father, my grandfather,
Yeah.
he started the business, but did he put any of these roads in, or did you start anything, or?
Well, he worked pit siding.
Yeah.
Going to Kelsey, and the spur going in from the Churchill line to Thompson, and from 58 to 59, they had equipment in there like shovel, opposite to a dragline, shovel for loading, and guys like Jim Nordic run the shovel, and Ed Budnick was one of the guys hauling from Hudson Bay, just to mention a few.
Yeah.
And then later on, PFRA had a man, a Dutchman, I just forget his name, and he bought equipment, and my dad sold him equipment, and he became a big contractor in Thompson. And Smook Brothers from Vida, they done most of the clearing on 391 to Thompson. They became one of the biggest contractors in the north.
And Colleen Smook, that's the mayor of Thompson now. That's part of her family.
That's part of her family. They all originated from Vida.
Okay.
All real good people and hard workers.
Okay. They now around the Paw, you basically worked the Paw north, right? Or like how far south you went?
Dauphin North.
Okay, Dauphin north. You worked even around Roblin and Russell for a season.
Roblin, Russell.
And then
We done some of the clearing or the survey for Lake of the Prairies from Roblin to Russell.
okay. And PFRA, that stands for Prairie Farmer Rehabilitation Act or Association.
Yeah.
So PFRA was in the Paw during or just after the flood.
Right after the flood,
That was
1949.
1949. So
See,
a lot of the old timers in the Paw would know what PFRA is, but
One
not
of
everybody else.
one of the old timers that's living and worked and lived through all this was Otter Herman,
Okay. So
Bill Fulmore.
Bill Fulmore, yeah, there's another one. So now, guys who are watching this are probably thinking about bombardiers. Did you have a bombardier at every stage along the way here?
You couldn't put this in
Yeah,
with a bombardier without a bombardier.
Yeah.
Because the other option was skidoos,
yeah,
which weren't reliable, And if you're going to go from here to there with this all has to be cleared. So that means that's crawler tractors. Eh?
Yeah.
Well, you have to clear that. It would take you forever to put that through, but with the Bombardier, you can go mark it. And then I had a big foremost 21-foot deck soft track machine with 21 feet of track on it, 40 inches wide. What we do is we put a cat in here and clear that portage, and then when we got that lake, I would just hook onto the grader and pull it over here and let the grader go again.
Okay.
So we're always leapfrogging ahead.
So ships to the north, the Bombardiers. So like you've mentioned a few times, you like doing the videos, and hopefully you can pass on some knowledge to the guys that are still using Bombardiers for winter roads and commercial fishing and that sort of thing.
Want to show them some shortcuts and maintenance and
Yeah.
fixing.
So that's part of Dad's history, 50 plus years of building the North. If you guys have any questions, put it into the comments in the video here and let us know what you think. And because a lot of guys want to know what Dad did in the North, and well, here's the top half of Manitoba.
We built sewage lagoons, water reservoirs like in Pelican Rapids. We made a water reservoir right into the lake.
So you open up the North for further development. Like, did you have to work for any mining companies, or were they coming in behind you? Or
we've done a lot of work for Hudson Bay Mining and Smelting.
And what about like for logging roads and stuff like that? It was like Repap, Manfor.
Well, Manfor, Repap, Tolko.
Okay.
Worked for all of them.
So real contributions to northern, opening up the North for the natural resources, so that Manitoba could take advantage of its natural resources and promote the North this way. But one of the other things I wanted to mention was you were hiring Indigenous peoples well before it became popular or mandatory and whatnot. Why did you hire Indigenous people?
I liked them because they were good workers, and if you're hungry, they weren't fussy. We ate caribou or deer or moose or beef or pork or whatever, and I always had a camp with a cook, so they were happy about that. No dishes to wash.
Okay. Who were some of the more unforgettable Indigenous people that you worked with?
Oh, I had guys like Bruce Tate.
Yeah, from South Indian.
Yeah, Roxy Colomb, guys that lived there. Right?
Yeah.
And I had guys from Brochet, Murdo Dysart, guys that had them for years. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, and Andy Nickel.
Yeah.
From down south. And I had a guy from Swan River, was very good. We worked on transmission line from Laurie River to Puckatawagan.
Yeah.
With hydro.
You went into Puck as well for some jobs, didn't you?
We used to go in there and take the generator stations, mobile generators into Puckatawagan. They were diesel generators.
Yeah.
5,000 kilowatts or 500, I forget. But they were so heavy that you had to take them in with a cat off of the railroad spur, because there's hills going into Puckatawagan.
One of the things I remember as my teenager, you built a road in Jungle Lake. We actually spent a couple seasons there.
Yeah.
And you can drive into Sheridan, but Jungle Lake is really only a couple miles down the road, but you couldn't get there. So we had to go in through the rail line. And I remember the first bit was 25 kilometers long or something like that. And then you put an extra, 100 or 200?
No, not hundreds.
But you built 2 bridges, didn't you?
Yeah. We had a very good supervisor at that time.
Don Sauvé.
Don Sauvé, very easy to work with, and always had a plan. There was no sitting and thinking and guessing. Just a pleasure to work with.
And one of the things I asked you a few years ago, I think actually it was more than a few years ago. It might have been after your heart attack. I asked you, you ever had any regrets? And you said you'd a couple jobs you wish you didn't take, but you love doing this work. And I know that in the wintertime you couldn't wait to get out the door. But you told me, and one thing that always stuck in my mind, any time you were having a bad day, you just looked over at the dog, and the dog was having the best day of its life. So you were happy. And you still got the dogs.
You didn't have to go to church much because you talked to God, couldn't you, every day?
Yeah. There you
And
go.
it worked out.
There you go. Okay, that's it. Just to put things more in perspective, this is the Northwest Territories here. So this is the top half of Manitoba. It's Northwest Territories. Of the north of 53, the paw is, well, it's down here somewhere. There's Sheridan, the paw, the Flin Flon, the paw would be down around over here. So quite a large area here. Dad used to travel thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of kilometers every year, and really opened up the north. And so yeah.
Actually started the whole ball game by constantly being in the north in 1965.
So 65 till you retired in what, 2010?
Well, I guess you could call it retirement.
Well,
Okay, so anyway, from there, we put the transmission line in, the survey from the north end, the bog to the paw.
mm-hmm.
That winter, January, we went to Ilford, and we were looking after the roads and the hauling of gravel for the footings for all the towers, clearing and stuff like that with hydro. And our supervisor on that work was Reg Daggett,
Okay.
and he was well organized. So from there on, we were with hydro for years. We went from
guys. Out.
took equipment from here to Lynn Lake by rail, and Brodsky Construction was on the first 20 miles from Lynn Lake going to Leaf Rapids. There was no road in there, and Hydro had a brand new D7. We had the new D7 and a track loader, 400 barrels of fuel. That was all loaded on barges and went to Missy Falls. And from there we spent summer and the winter, and then Daggett had the equipment brought across country from Missy Falls to Nelson House. And Red McPhail was in charge of that, and my brother Bruce McLean, I forget who else was there.
Uncle Bill there?
Eh?
Uncle Bill there?
No. One of Bruce's friends that we had worked with, they brought the equipment across to Nelson House. They were in 2 tents, and they burnt the tent down. This is in end of January, February. Pretty cold yet, and Red McPhail would put the fire out at nighttime on the one existing
Tent.
tent. Arnie Bow was one of the operators there. So anyway, they were pretty happy when they hit the high ground.
Yeah, I bet.
Come in.
Come on in.
That's it for now.
Okay.